Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I'm going to be playing the audio of a DVD that is one of our most popular DVDs. In most cases, everybody wants the latest DVD. Well, in this case, you may want the most popular DVD, even though this was taped in May of 2000, some 15 years ago. Ken Peters received a dream about 35 years ago, the night he was called to be a prophet. He lived through the first 3.5 years of the Tribulation. He saw amazing things, how TVs listened and watched them in their home. He was shown what the mark of the beast looked like, the Antichrist, how he spreads the Antichrist message on large building-sized screens that we don't even have today. Many events in his dream have already come to pass. Yet this was taped in May of 2000, yet it continues to be one of our most popular DVDs. People call in and not just get one copy, but many copies of it to hand around to their friends. It's called I Saw the Tribulation. Now get this. This was the first, last, and only time he has ever told these dreams. No other place. Matter of fact, I just talked to him 6 weeks ago. Asked him if he'd come on the radio and discuss it. Absolutely not. This is the only place you can get these two dreams. So if you want to know what many Christians say is the best peek into what the first 3.5 years of the tribulation, you'll get this 2.5-hour DVD. Normally we ask a donation of $30 for our DVDs, but today you can get this one for a gift of just $20. But we're going to do better than that. You can get 10 copies of it for only $75. That's $7.50. That's right, $7.50 each, but you got to get all the same title now. It's called I Saw the Tribulation. You can't get this offer on the internet. You got to call 785-266-1112. 785-266-1112, one of the most popular DVDs out of 150 speakers, making 300 DVDs over the last 22 years. This is close to the top. One of the most popular DVDs we've ever made, 785-266-1112. Now, for the next couple of days, I'm going to be playing parts of it. Let's go listen to Ken Peters tell his dream that came to him about 35 years ago. I saw the tribulation.
I have a friend, a good friend named Alex. I won't tell you his last name until after the meeting if you'd like to know his name. He escaped the Hungarian Revolution. 2 of his brothers were snatched in the middle of the night. He's never seen them since 1956. Why do we think that America can't have this happen to it? America is a godless nation. If the ancient foundations are removed, what shall the righteous do? I was on my way to conduct another business transaction, and I ran into an individual. A very strange thing happened at this point. He was very, very excited and began to talk to me about something he had just experienced. I'm going to go fairly quickly with this so that we can move along. This is a very poor rendering, but we are putting together a very good rendering of this. This man has said to me, Ken, I introduced myself to him. He was very excited. He said, have you got your identification mark? And I said, I don't know what you mean. What's an identification mark? He says, they've just enacted a new identification mark. And by the way, this started with a voluntary implementation first. You did it voluntarily first. This man told me you ought to get yours done real soon to avoid the hassle, because soon everyone, they say, will have to have this to conduct business. Now, what I want to show you is, this is a poor drawing because we weren't artists, and I am a stick guy drawer, so please bear with me tonight. I will explain what the one I saw looked like. On the web of the right hand, this individual had what looked to be like the sunburst of Mexico. Anybody ever see the sunburst of Mexico? You know, it looks like a sun with a face on it. That's what this kind of appeared like, except these rays right here, they didn't look like that at all. If you could picture in your mind the sunburst, and then all of a sudden, like a hologram, beams were coming out of it as rays, okay? This was another palm. This is upside down. I don't know why that happened. We made a mistake. Actually, I didn't do this, but I'll take responsibility because I don't want my friend to get the bad rap on this. I love that guy, so yeah, I do. I don't want to tell about him. This hand actually was facing just like the right hand was here, the same direction. Excuse me, it was inside of this, and there was another emblem just like this one on this hand like you see in the web. Okay, this guy was very excited about this. He was very happy because he said, hey, we won't have to use these stupid cards anymore. At this point in the dream, we were already at the point of using cards to transact everything. You say, how do you know that this will happen? I hosted about 18 missionaries, high school missionaries from British Columbia 3 months ago at my house. And they're on their way to Mexico. They were bummed out because they couldn't use their Canadian smart cards in America. For convenience sake, Canada is getting rid of cash because the Canadians don't like carrying the loonies and the toonies. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Those are big, heavy coins that are a pain in the rear end to carry around because they're very, very heavy. And so for convenience sake, they're implementing this process. Now, this mark, I want to tell you about it, was very strange to me at this point because shortly after the dream, actually, no, not shortly. Again, I want to get these dates correct for you. 1993, the Lord spoke to my heart and said, take up the game of golf. And I said, that probably wouldn't be a good idea, Lord, because you remember my temper in high school with golf, and I would probably lose my testimony on the golf course. Are you sure you want me to play golf? He says, yes, I want to have you get relaxation and teach you about character. You need some. I said, okay, Lord, I'll do that. And so I began to take up golf, and like most other golfers, you either love it or hate it. I totally loved it. I dressed the part. I had the clubs, but I couldn't play. And so I would buy my golf balls at Kmart because they were very, very inexpensive there. If you go to the golf course, the same golf balls that Kmart has, ladies, you can bust your husbands tonight too. When they try to tell you that, you know, those golf balls cost $35, you can get the same ones at Kmart for about $12. Okay? And I would buy the real cheap ones because I played on very nice courses because I like to hang around really nice people, and I didn't have a good golf game, and so I would lose about 6 or 8 balls a round. Anyway, I'm at Kmart, and I hope if you work at Kmart you're not mad at me tonight, but what I'm going to tell you is a shocker. And it's been confirmed now in 4 cities on the tour. I went up to pay for my golf balls, and as I put them down on the counter, I looked down and noticed this very unusual pad on the checkout counter. You know how you go to the grocery store where they weigh the vegetables and stuff? The little pad there? Well, at this Kmart, there was a little, like about the size of this overhead tonight, about an 8.5 by 11 gray colored pad with a hand sitting down on it with the, not exactly that, because again that's a very poor rendering. We will get the new rendering out, by the way. Stan was telling me we'll get it to you. But I saw this exact rendering that I saw in the dream sitting on this pad. Excuse me. I asked the lady, can you please tell me what this is all about? And she said, I'll have you know that they just recently put these in, and we're not exactly sure what is going to happen with them because they didn't tell us everything. She said, but a supervisor told me that what they're planning to do is sometime in the future just have a person run their hand by, and that will take care of the scanning. Somebody might be here tonight that's seen these same handprints on these pads in some retail outlets. I've heard they've been seen in Walmarts and some other, I don't know the names of East Coast stores. Somebody was telling me some the other day that they were found in. And another thing they told me was exactly what happened to me. I began to witness to this lady, by the way, and was able to, I wish I could have told you I led her to faith in Christ, but I wasn't. But I shook her to the core of her being. I told her some things about the Antichrist, about the mark of the beast, and then I told her a few things about her mom and dad and her home life and all that. And she didn't want to accept Christ, and the lady in line with her big bag of popcorn was getting a bit irate with me. But I'll have you know that she got rattled. And about 2 weeks later, it was gone. And some people told me, yeah, we're seeing him come and go. It's kind of weird how it's happening. That very strange thing happened to me. Anybody else want to see this anymore? It's a great drawing, isn't it? It's one of the most famous drawings that have ever come out of the Prophecy Club. This really rattled Stan because, you know, he's a perfectionist and he likes everything just right for y'all. And so we were there. At this point, I saw a very, very, again, unusual thing with this man's hand, this agitation. I got very frightened, and something spoke inside of my stomach and said to me, get out of here as fast as you can. And I began to think, oh my goodness, it is the end of the world now. It is really the end of the world. At this point, I began to run to my house as fast as I could. While I was running, I want to read to you what I heard in my spirit. I didn't know it was my spirit at that time. If you have a Bible, if you want to turn there tonight, I'll read very quickly from Revelation 13. I didn't know these were scriptures. I was hearing this inside of my stomach. Now, again, I didn't know what the stomach did at that time. Now I know that's where your spirit man lives. Out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. He causes all, verse 16, chapter 13 of Revelations, He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, to receive a mark in their right hand or their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he has the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. That number is 666, okay? Or, yeah, 666. Now, I'm running as fast as I can back to my house because I'm realizing, oh my gosh, my wife is there. She's alone. I'm getting to my house. Another scripture jumps into my heart. Didn't know it. It was from Matthew 24 about the abomination of desolation. I reached to the doorknob. I began to pull the door open, even though that scripture was telling me, don't go into your house, don't return. I opened it up to see the most demonic presence I've ever seen. This presence that I encountered at my front door as I opened the door, I can't tell you that it was the devil himself. He was very dark. There was a shroud of black around him. It wasn't like say an African American skin or anything like that. It wasn't skin that was dark. It was a shroud of darkness that was over this being. This being was very sinister looking, and just his presence gripped my heart with great fear. At this point, I began to scream as loud as I could, and I woke up from the dream. As I woke up, I was laying in a pool of perspiration. I literally had a silhouette of my body in the bed, and I shook my wife, and I said, something terrible is happening to me, and I think God is trying to tell me something. And so I told her a few things about what had happened, and she said, no, you're just having a nightmare. And, I got to tell you, I knew this was no nightmare. I've had nightmares. How many of you have had nightmares? This was not a nightmare. There's no way. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I think it was about 10:30 at night when I fell asleep. This had been going for several hours, and I felt a real strong urging to read the Bible, even though I didn't even know if I owned a Bible. I began to search in my garage for a Bible. I eventually found a Bible. It said Holy Bible, St. Joseph Catholic Edition, and I don't even know where I got it. I opened the inside cover, and it said...
We'll be right back after this message. Yes, you can still get the 2 DVDs by Michael Snyder, Prepare for the Economic Collapse, World War III, and The Regathering of the 10 Lost Tribes of Israel for a gift of $50. However, the best deal is get the April gift offer, which includes the last 4 speakers having 6 DVDs, a value of $180 for a gift of just $90. In addition to Michael Snyder's 2 DVDs, you get Standing for the Lord, which tells the amazing story of how God got Christine Weick past 2 key entry doors and 2 checkpoints to proclaim Jesus is Lord during Muslims worshiping Allah in a Christian church. Then in Prophecies in the Bible Codes, Jonathan Wright is the only Christian that is researching Bible prophecy in the Bible Codes. He's found amazing information presented in over 100 charts in this triple DVD set. So that would be 6 DVDs over the last 4 speakers at the Prophecy Club in the April gift offer, valued at $180 for a gift of just $90. Call 785-266-1112 and ask for the April gift offer, or go to prophecyclub.com. That's the April gift offer, 4 speakers, 6 DVDs, valued at $180 for a gift of just $90. 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. Order today. And now, back to the program.
Property of St. Francis School and Church. I don't know how it got to my house. I don't honestly remember stealing the Bible, but I guess I must have, because I had it. I went back into the house, I sat down in a rocking chair and began to read this Bible with diligence. I have a real habit in my life to always flip to the back of things, and I flipped to the back of the Bible and it said apocalypse. I have to tell you, I don't know what apocalypse meant at the time. I had no idea what it meant. I began to read, and all I could get out of what I was reading was that Jesus was going to come to His church and take away their candles. As a Catholic, that was very frightening to me, because everything we did was with candles. You know, you had an Advent candle, a Lent candle, a Easter candle, a Christmas candle. You lit candles on the platform. You know, I mean, everything. You had purgatory candles. Everything was candles. And so it made no sense to me. And I fell asleep, and instantly the dream began to start exactly where it left off, me facing this very sinister creature. I think the creature was a demon, some sort of a demon presence. It was very, very intense, and it gripped my heart. I slammed the door and ran off. I realized that my wife, in fact, wasn't in my home and that she was gone. I knew that by this presence. It's just hard to tell you how afraid I was. I've had a few experiences in my life with demons and witches manifesting in my hotel rooms and astral projecting in the soulish realm into my house, and I've learned how to combat those kind of things. I'm not afraid of that anymore. They don't usually fool with me anymore because I know how to pray now. But at this time, I had no comprehension of how to deal with this strong evil being. And so I began to run, and I ran and ran and ran. I seemed to believe in my mind, in the dream I ran a couple miles. And I got caught by one of these strange-looking police trucks by these military police. They knew my name. Even though I didn't tell them my name, they knew my name. And they took me to this government building. It was a large building, and took me into a room, and there was my wife and the older gentleman that I began to call the evangelist. They had been captured, and they knew exactly where to take me. That was very astounding to me because I wondered, how did they know all this stuff about people? You know, I know that we're watched right now. I know that Christians are monitored in our country. I know that Bible-believing Christians are monitored. The FBI monitors Bible-believing Christians. It's been happening for years and years. Recently there was a printout in major papers that described what the FBI considered dangerous people. One of the categories was Christians who are Bible-believing, regular church attenders that believe what the Bible says is relevant for today. Those are threatening individuals to the FBI. And so they knew things about us, and they took us into this room. I was in there with my wife and this older gentleman. They began to politely interrogate us. They began to ask us to, be cooperative, come into this agreement with this new government, and everything will be fine for you. Well, my wife, who you'll meet if you come to meetings in the future, is one of the boldest Christians I've ever met. She's also probably one of the kindest and most gentle believers I've ever met. But she will get in the devil's face. And she and this older man began to preach to these people that were trying to convince us of this new alignment of this government. And so they took us out of there and put us in another room, and now it was a lot of mind control interrogation. What happened was my mind, I could feel pulled in almost to this order and say, if we just don't cause any trouble, it'll be okay. That's how my mind began to function. But yet the older gentleman and my wife began to just fight this with all their spiritual strength and challenge it with scriptures. It was amazing to me because the capturing of us was almost as though they had planned it out. I don't know how this being got to my house and how they knew to catch me, but it seemed like it was being planned out. Some strange things that I saw right before this happened to me was that all the nations of the world were as one. There was no longer any sovereign individual nations. Continents were no longer divided into countries, but continents were divided into regions. And one thing I want to tell you about this time, that the awareness of God being on the global scene at this time was nearly impossible to detect. The global order had no presence of God in it whatsoever. Evil at this point in the dream had begun to pervade every aspect of society. Darkness was everywhere, and I was telling Stan that what I saw was there was a clear line of who was God's people and who wasn't. I mean, you could walk down the street and you would know instantly who was who. It's not like it is right now, whether you're wondering if, sometimes you go into large groups of people and you're wondering, I wonder who's saved here. I wonder who knows the Lord. This was so evident. There was a clear line of delineation. Demarcation was marked spiritually and was clearly seen. When we were being interrogated, the mind control was phenomenal. It wasn't like any human could do in an interrogation. My mind began to really be swept with anxiety and fear. And then because my wife and this older gentleman kept being very bold and kind of in your face with them, they took us out and they took us into this very, very long corridor. In this corridor was thousands of people lined up. The corridor, it seemed to be at least 100 yards long, probably longer. But in my ability, in depth perception in the dream, it was a long, long line of people. And every 5 or 6 minutes, these people would walk forward and take a step. We had been in this line for a long time when people would barge in through the doors on the side of this corridor and begin to grill people and tell them to renounce their faith. They would never use the name Jesus. They would never use the name Jesus Christ. They would never use the name God. But they would say, you should renounce your faith in Him while you can still live. And your faith is empty. And it was a blasphemous kind of challenging that these people were bringing against the people in the line. And every so often somebody would crack. They would just collapse and they would drag them away and they would renounce their faith in Christ. It made me very, very uneasy to be in this line because I wasn't quite sure what they were going to do to us. I wasn't sure if they were going to put us in prison or maybe beat us up to scare us or what. It wasn't made clear yet to us. Eventually, we made it through a battery of 3 double doors. After the last double door, we were put into like a holding cell kind of a room. And there was the old man in the front of the line, my wife, and then myself. And they opened the doors very quickly and took this older gentleman into the room. And I don't know what happened to him at this point of the dream because they shut the doors very quickly. 6 minutes or so later, they opened the doors this time wide open. And what I saw was the most empty feeling I think I've ever experienced in my whole life. I saw this man that was a very, very big man. I was sharing earlier in the tour that he was tall like a professional basketball player, but he was very big like a professional football player. He was an extremely large man, and he had a big hood, like a satin hood, over his head with eye holes to see out of. My wife was in front of me, and they began to tell her she could renounce her faith and live. And now I realized what was happening because this man was standing there with a huge sword. I probably should have drawn a little transparency tonight to show you what the sword looked like. But to trace it kind of in the sky, so to speak, it started down here with a handle and began to come up like this, and then like this, and then a big arch like this. And it was a very, very frightening looking sword. And then I saw this table that was a little bit longer than the average human being and a little bit wider. And my wife said she wasn't going to renounce her faith in Jesus. She began to preach powerfully. And, I wish even today I was as bold as her right now, because I'm not. And she began to just rebuke the devil and you name it. I mean, she was doing it. And so they got angry and strapped her down on this table. By the way, it was like this, face first. So she was looking up to the sky with this man standing behind her with this sword. He took the sword and chopped her head right off, right in my presence. I saw it. I don't want to tell you that I want this to happen to my wife. I don't know if this will happen. I've never heard clearly God tell me that I would die as a martyr yet. I know that everything in the dream so far has transpired almost exactly as I saw it. But what happened was with this sword, it left an indelible mark in my life. Many years after the dream, I was participating in a county fair. I was actually visiting it in a place up in California, at Visalia, and I was watching a parade, and there was a bunch of older guys riding little motorcycles and zooming around, and they had vests on and little caps. It was kind of strange to me. I didn't really know how it fit in, but afterwards I was walking down a side street, and there was a big van, a big cargo van, and it said, please support children's hospitals, the Shriners, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden it had this cap that these guys were wearing and the sword that I saw this executioner holding. I just sat there and froze when I saw this sword. I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know how to perceive it. It was it just emptied me out of all my ability to think really clearly. When I left that fair, I went and started studying out because I thought the Shriners were pretty nice people. I mean, they had nice hospitals and, they helped a lot of crippled kids and that kind of stuff. And I had no idea, but something told me that this sword was connected to them somehow. And I began to research them, and I found out that they, in fact, are involved in quite a bit of some dark, dark things. And I found that the little cap that they wear, the fez, is red because they've promised to dip it in the blood of Christians because of the anger and animosity towards the Crusades where the Christians killed lots of Muslims and Jews. The other thing is the sword, and it's called the sword of scimitar. And I searched this out, and it was the exact sword that this individual was using to execute people. I had just witnessed my wife being executed. And I was very grieved, but to be very truthful with you, I was more afraid of what was going to happen to me next than the fact that my wife had just died. And I know that sounds very selfish, but if I told you any differently, I'd be lying and God would deal with me. I was more concerned about my life than her dying right then. I was very, very afraid. And I knew that now I'm going to die. And I knew that in my mind, I could not do this. I was not going to make it. I was paralyzed. And my mind began to torment me and almost became literally blanked out. My stomach began to shout out loud that, Jesus, please help me. I'm afraid. But the message couldn't get out because my mind was paralyzed. And it was as though I had the flu, an extreme case of the flu. My teeth were chattering and I was shaking with chills in this line. I could not process my thoughts whatsoever. It was as though that I had totally lost all faculties of my mind, my ability to cognitively be aware of what was going on at that moment. It was terrible, and although it only lasted for maybe 5 or 6 minutes, it seemed like hours because of the extreme weight of this attack on me. I know a lot now, more than what I did in the dream, about the assaults of Satan and how he can work.
Well, brothers and sisters, I'm going to interrupt the broadcast right there, but I encourage you to call in and at least get one copy of this. Normally $30. Today you can get it for a gift of just $20, or even better, get 10 copies to give away to your friends and family for a gift of just $75. Never have we offered our DVDs that cheap ever before, maybe never again. 10 copies of the same title called I Saw the Tribulation by calling 785-266-1112. 785-266-1112. This one is not available on the internet. You got to call 785-266-1112. Ken Peters, I Saw the Tribulation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your regular monthly support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Yes, you can still get the 2 DVDs by Michael Snyder, Prepare for the Economic Collapse, World War III, and The Regathering of the 10 Lost Tribes of Israel, for a gift of $50. However, the best deal is get the April gift offer, which includes the last 4 speakers having 6 DVDs, a value of $180 for a gift of just $90. In addition to Michael Snyder's 2 DVDs, you get Standing for the Lord, which tells the amazing story of how God got Christine Wyke past 2 key entry doors and 2 checkpoints to proclaim Jesus is Lord during Muslims worshiping Allah in a Christian church. Then in Prophecies and the Bible Codes, Jonathan Wright is the only Christian that is researching Bible prophecy in the Bible Codes. He's found amazing information presented in over 100 charts in this triple DVD set. So that would be 6 DVDs over the last 4 speakers at the Prophecy Club in the April gift offer, valued at $180 for a gift of just $90. Call 785-266-1112 and ask for the April gift offer, or go to prophecyclub.com. That's the April gift offer, 4 speakers, 6 DVDs, valued at $180 for a gift of just $90. 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. Order today.